Introduction: The Philosophy of the Simple Path. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are spending an hour dissecting the holy grail of financial independence, The Simple Path to Wealth by H.L. Collins. Most financial books are written to make the author sound smart. This book was written by a father to his daughter to make her wealthy. It's the difference between a textbook and a roadmap. Before we start, I want to put a disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. This is a deep dive summary for educational purposes. All investing involves the risk of loss. Please consult a professional for your specific tax and legal situation. Chapter 1, Debt, the Unacceptable Burden. J.L. Collins begins here because you cannot build a house on a swamp. Debt is the swamp. He describes debt as the most ruthless of masters. If you owe money, you do not own your life. You are working to pay for your past rather than buying your future. The deep dive Collins focuses heavily on opportunity cost. If you are paying a 19% interest on a credit card, you aren't just losing that money. You are losing the 8 to a 10 that money could have earned in the stock market. That is a 29-rate swing in your net worth. He argues that there is no such thing as good debt in the accumulation phase, with the possible exception of a modest mortgage, what I have learned. This chapter forced me to look at my monthly payments differently. I realized that a $500 car payment isn't just $500. It's the $2,000 a month it would have become in 20 years if invested. I learned that financial peace isn't about how much you make, but how little you owe. Chapter 2, Why You Need to Face on Spooky You Money. This is the most famous concept in the book. Collins argues that the primary goal of money is not stuff, it is freedom. The deep dive FU money is a midpoint between broke and retired. It's having enough in the bank, perhaps 1 to 3 years of expenses, that allows you to tell a toxic boss, I don't need this job as much as you think I do. The psychological edge. When you have FU money, you actually perform better at work because you aren't acting out of fear. The threshold. It's the moment your investments start to feel real and provide a safety net that changes your posture toward the world. What I learned that FU money is a mental state. Before reading this, I thought I had to wait until I had $1 million to feel safe. Collins taught me that even having $25,000 or $50,000 in a total market index provides a level of power that 90% of the population doesn't have. It's about buying your backbone. Chapter 3, Can Everyone Retire Wealthy? Collins addresses the skeptics. He argues that wealth is a choice for anyone with a middle-class income, provided they can master their psychology. The deep dive. The simple path isn't easy because it requires you to defy the consumer engine. The 50% savings rate. Collins suggests that if you can live on 50% of your income, you can be financially independent in about 11 to 12 years. Lifestyle creep. He warns that as our income grows, we tend to buy bigger houses and faster cars, which effectively keeps us in the treadmill forever. What I have learned. I learned that spending is a habit, not a requirement. I looked back at my own raises over the last 3 years and realized I spent almost all of them. After this chapter, I decided to auto-invest every future raise so I never even see the money in my checking account. Chapter 4, The Market Always Goes Up. This is the math chapter. Collins uses 100+ years of data to show that despite wars, depressions, and pandemics, the market always recovers. The deep dive Collins calls the stock market a self-cleansing mechanism. When a company like Enron or Blockbuster fails, it drops out of the index. When a company like Amazon or Apple succeeds, it becomes a bigger part of the index. The drunken man. He describes the market as a man walking up a mountain with a yo-yo. You are staring at the yo-yo, daily prices, instead of the man, long-term growth. What I have learned. I learned to stop checking my portfolio. Before this, I'd look at my accounts every time the news mentioned a market drop. Collins taught me that a drop is just a sale on future wealth. I learned to embrace the volatility as the price of admission for the gains. Chapter 5, The Wealth Accumulation Phase, Vitsex. This is the core how-to chapter. It is the most technical part of the book. The deep dive, if you are in the accumulation phase, working and saving, Collins recommends 1. Vitsex, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. 2. No bonds. 3. No international funds. He argues U.S. companies are already global. 3. Low fees. VATSEX has an expense ratio of roughly 0.04%. High fee funds, 1% plus, will steal up to half of your final nest egg over 40 years. What I have learned. I learned the power of asset allocation. I used to have a messy portfolio with 15 different ETFs. I sold them all and consolidated. It was terrifying at first to have only one fund, but the clarity it brought to my life was worth it. I stopped wondering if I had the right mix. I now know I own everything. Moving forward with our deep dive into the simple path to wealth, we are entering the mechanics and freedom phases. This is where the philosophy turns into a mathematical certainty. If you're building this for a long-form video, these next chapters provide the structural meat that keeps people watching because they offer a clear step-by-step priority list. Chapter 6. The Tax Advantage Buckets. Collins argues that if VTSAX is the fuel, then tax-advantaged accounts are the engine that prevents your wealth from leaking out to the government. The deep dive, the hierarchy of investing. Most people are overwhelmed by the alphabet soup of 401ks, IRAs, and HSAs. Collins simplifies this into a clear priority list. 1. The 401k match. This is the only free lunch in finance. If your employer matches 4% and you don't contribute, you are effectively turning down a 100% instant return on your money. 2. The HSA, Health Savings Account. Collins calls this the stealth IRA. It is triple tax advantaged. Money goes in tax-free, grows tax-free, and comes out tax-free for medical expenses. If you don't use it, it turns into a regular IRA after age 65. 3. IRA, Roth or traditional. He explains the difference simply. Traditional is tax me later. Good if you're in a high tax bracket now. Roth is tax me now. Good if you're early in your career and your taxes are low. 4. Taxable brokerage account. Only after you've filled all the other buckets do you put money here. What I have learned. I learned that I was leaving money on the table. Before this, I didn't realize that my HSA could be an investment vehicle. I used to spend the money in it as soon as I had a doctor's bill. Now I pay those bills out of pocket and let the HSA money stay invested in VTSAX to compound for decades. I learned that the tax code is a set of incentives. If you follow them, the government actually helps you get rich. Chapter 7. The Wealth Preservation Phase. Adding bonds. This chapter is for those nearing the finish line. When you no longer have a salary, the wild ride of the stock market becomes more dangerous. The deep dive. The power of VBTLX. Collins recommends adding the Vanguard Total Bond Market Index Fund, VBTLX. The ballast. Bonds act like the heavy weight at the bottom of a sailboat. They won't make the boat go faster, that's the stock's job, but they keep you from flipping over in a storm. The glide path. As you get within 5 to 10 years of retirement, you gradually shift from 100% stocks to something like 80% stocks and 20% bonds. Why not 100% bonds? Inflation. If you hold only bonds, your purchasing power will be eaten alive over a 30-year retirement. You always need stocks to keep growing your pile. What I have learned. I learned that risk tolerance is a lie we tell ourselves in a bull market. It's easy to say I'm 100% stocks when the market is up. Collins taught me that the real purpose of bonds is to keep you from selling your stocks during a 50% crash. I learned that my allocation isn't about math. It's about what allows me to sleep at night. Chapter 8. The 4% Rule. The magic number. This is the most important calculation in the book. It's the formula that tells you exactly when you can quit your job. The deep dive. The Trinity Study. Collins explains the Trinity Study, which looked at historical market data from 1926 to 1995. The rule. If you withdraw 4% of your initial portfolio value in the first year of retirement and then adjust that amount for inflation every year after, you have a 95% plus chance of your money lasting 30 years or more. The 25x rule. To find your FI number, take your annual expenses and multiply them by 25. Example. If you need $40,000 a year to live, you need $1,000 invested. $40,000 is 25. So 1.1 based on what I have learned. I learned that retirement isn't an age, it's a number. Before reading this, I thought retirement was something that happened at 65. Now I realize it's just a math problem. If I can lower my expenses, my 25x number gets smaller, and I reach freedom faster. I learned that frugality isn't about being cheap, it's about buying years of my life back. Chapter 9, Why I Don't Like Real Estate. What Collins is notoriously skeptical of being a landlord. He views it as a wealth, not an investment. The deep dive. The hidden costs, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and the nightmare tenant. Opportunity cost. While your house might go up in value, it rarely beats the stock market once you factor in the thousands of dollars spent on interest and repairs. Liquidity. You can't sell a bathroom if you need $10,000. You can sell a few shares of VTSAX in seconds, what I have learned. I learned to stop viewing my primary residence as an investment and start viewing it as a lifestyle expense. This took the pressure off buying the biggest house possible. I realized that for me, the simplicity of a digital portfolio in VTSX far outweighs the headache of fixing a leaky toilet at a rental property at 2 a.m. Continued the breakdown based on the core strategies presented in J.L. Collins's book and his Talks at Google session. These chapters represent the freedom and execution phases of the book. Chapter 10, The 4% Rule and the Magic of 25. This chapter is the mathematical heart of the book. It transforms the vague idea of retirement into a concrete, achievable target. The deep dive Collins bases his advice on the Trinity study, which explored how much one could safely withdraw from their portfolio without running out of money. The math. If you can live on 4% of your total investments in year one and adjust for inflation thereafter, your money will almost certainly last forever. The 25x rule. To find your freedom number, simply multiply your annual expenses by 25. If you spend $40,000 a year, you need $1,000. Flexibility. Collins emphasizes that 4% is a floor. If the market crashes, you should try to withdraw less, the yield of the portfolio, to allow it to recover, what I have learned. I learned that financial independence is a math problem, not an age vow. Before this chapter, I viewed retirement as something that happens at 65. Now I see it as a finish line I can move closer to by either earning more or, more importantly, spending less. I learned that every $100 I cut from my monthly budget reduces the amount I need to retire by $30,000. That realization is incredibly empowering. Chapter 11, Why I Don't Like Investment Advisors. Collins is famously skeptical of the financial services industry, which he views as a groaning banquet table designed to confuse you, the deep dive. Misaligned interests. Most advisors are paid to sell you products, not to grow your wealth. Even fee-only advisors can be a drag on your performance by charging 1% of your assets annually. The 1% leak. Over 30 years, a 1% fee can eat up to 1/3 of your final nest egg. The complexity trap. Advisors often make investing look hard so you feel you need them. Collins argues that once you understand that VTSX is all you need, the advisor becomes obsolete, what I have learned. I learned to trust simplicity over authority. I used to think that because someone had a suit and an office, they knew a secret I didn't. Collins taught me that the secret is that there is no secret. I learned that by managing my own simple index fund, I am likely to outperform 80 to 90% of those professional managers over the long term anyway. Chapter 12, Target Retirement Funds, the set it and forget it option. For those who find even the simple path too much to manage, Collins offers a middle ground. The deep dive. What? Fund of funds, a target retirement fund, like Vanguard's 2050 fund, holds stocks and bonds in one package. It automatically becomes more conservative as you get closer to your retirement year. Pros/cons. It's 100% hands-off, but it is slightly more expensive than owning VTSX, VBTLX directly. The laggard warning. These funds often include international stocks, which Collins is skeptical of, but he admits they are a perfectly fine choice for someone who wants to never think about money again. What I have learned. I learned that perfection is the enemy of the good. If I spend 6 months debating between VTSAX and a target date fund, I'm losing 6 months of compounding. I learned that if I truly don't want to rebalance my own portfolio, I should just pick a target date fund and move on with my life. The most important step is being in the market. Chapter 13, Lifestyle and the Pursuing American Religion. Collins takes a hard look at the cultural pressures that keep us broke, specifically focusing on the obsession with homeownership. The deep dive. The house trap. Collins calls homeownership the American religion. He argues that houses are often terrible investments when you factor in maintenance, interest, taxes, and opportunity cost. Lifestyle choice. A house is a place to live, not a wealth generator. If you love it, buy it, but don't lie to yourself and call it an investment. While the consumer engine, society is designed to make you spend. Breaking the cycle of keeping up with the Joneses is the only way to stay on the path. What I have learned. I learned to separate my lifestyle from my net worth. I used to feel behind because I was renting while friends were buying houses. Collins gave me the data to realize that my liquid wealth in index funds is actually growing faster and with fewer headaches than a physical property. I learned that freedom isn't about owning a big house. It's about owning your time. Conclusion, the simple truth. Thank you for staying with me for this hour-long deep dive. As J.L. Collins says, the path is simple, but it is not easy. It requires the discipline to ignore the news, the courage to stay invested when the world feels like it's ending, and the wisdom to know that time is your greatest asset. If you enjoyed this chapter-by-chapter breakdown, please hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comments. What is your freedom number? The final 2 more crucial sections that round out the book and take it from theory to real-life execution. These chapters are arguably the most important for anyone actually planning to retire, as they cover how to get the money back out and how to give it away. Here are the final deep dive chapters to complete your hour-long script. Chapter 14, Withdrawal Strategies, the Cash Flow Phase. Once you've reached your FI number, how do you actually pay your bills without destroying your nest egg? The deep dive. Collins warns against the set and forget mentality when it comes to withdrawing money. The flexibility factor. If the market drops 20% in your first year of retirement, taking out your full 4% can be devastating. This is called sequence of returns risk. The strategy. Live on your dividends first. In a bad year, tighten your belt and try to withdraw as little as possible. In a boom year, you can take a bit more. The cash buffer. Collins suggests keeping 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or a money market fund so you never have to sell your VTSX while it's down. What I have learned. I learned that retirement isn't a static state. It's a dance. I used to think I just set an auto pay for my brokerage and never look at it again. This chapter taught me that being financially free still requires a bit of active management. I learned that my ability to be frugal is actually my greatest insurance policy against a market crash. Chapter 15, Charitable Giving and the Legacy. The book concludes by discussing what to do with the wealth you've built so it doesn't just sit in a bank account. The deep dive, Donor Advised Funds, DAFs. Collins is a huge fan of these. You get a tax deduction immediately when you put money in, and you can grant it to charities over time. Giving while living. He encourages readers not to wait until they die to give. By giving while you're alive, you get to see the impact of your money workers on the world. The money is a tool philosophy. Wealth is only useful if it buys you happiness or helps others. If it just causes you stress or makes your children lazy, it has failed its purpose. What I have learned. I learned that the end goal of the simple path isn't to be a miser. It's easy to get so addicted to saving that you forget why you started. This chapter taught me that once the math is solved, the focus should shift to contribution. I learned that wealth isn't just a number on a screen, it's the ability to make the world slightly better because you were here. Final closing, the master blueprint. And that, my friends, is the complete deep dive into the simple path to wealth. We have covered everything from destroying debt to the magic of VTSX, all the way to how you withdraw your money and leave a legacy. My final takeaway for you is this. Don't let the simplicity of this plan make you think it's not powerful. Most people fail because they seek complexity. They want the secret of stock or the next big thing. But as J.L. Collins proves, the person who buys the whole market and waits is the one who wins. Before you go, what is one thing you're going to change about your portfolio today? Check the description for the simple path checklist I've created for you. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the path.